Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the second session of our Gardening with Edibles Facebook Live session. I think it's raining at most parts of Singapore, and I think it's a very nice weather to sleep in. So I think I'm very happy that everyone is awake this morning to join us for our Facebook Live session. My name is Wee Fong.
And I'm Ishan.
And we love gardening. We look after the plants at Pasir Panjang Nursery and the Native Plant Center. So the Gardening with Edibles program was launched in June this year and encourages everyone to grow edibles at home.
Yes, and we've been very excited to see that some of you have already started growing your edibles and have even shared some of your photos with us on our online platforms. So we're thrilled to see that and keep posting your photos.
Right, so today, what we will be sharing with everyone are some gardening tips that we have learned along the way as part of our hobby, as part of our work. And we hope that these gardening tips will be useful for everyone. And if you have gardening tips of your own as well, please do feel free to share with everyone on the comment section or just post it on social media and share with everyone as well. So today, I'll be demonstrating on how to transplant the seedlings that you have germinated from the seeds, and also how to grow fruited vegetables on DIY trellises.
Right. And also, I'm sure some of you are pretty interested in not just growing plants, but the culinary aspects of plants. So today, I'll be sharing with you 5 native edible plants that you can find in our markets, and some of these you can even grow at home as well.
And do stay tuned with us all the way until the end so that you can actually join us for the Q&A session where we'll be answering some of your gardening tips, gardening questions, and give you some gardening tips that you can actually practice at home. So, okay, let's get started.
All right.
All right, so for those of you who have joined us for our last Facebook Live session in August, Dr. Wilson Wong and Jacqueline will have shared with everyone and demonstrated how to start the seeds by sowing them on seedling trays and germinating them. And by now, some of you might have gotten some seedlings, or in the near future, don't worry, some of you will get some seedlings of your own. And after the seeds have germinated, you should get something like this.
Yeah, so these are Kangkong seedlings, I think.
Yep, they are Kangkong seedlings, and I've chosen Kangkong because they're bigger and it's easier for me to demonstrate and for you to see. So you might be wondering, okay, so what do I do next after this? So for some of you who may have put more than one seed or a few seeds into each of these holes or seedling trays, you'll get a small little forest like this after the seeds have germinated. So what you need to do next is to transplant them out. But Ishan, do you know why we need to transplant some of these seedlings out?
I can actually start seeing some of the roots growing here. So it seems like there might not be enough space for all the roots to grow to support healthy leaf growth.
Yep, indeed. So once you have germinated the seeds and you see this kind of crowding scenario going on, it will be best to transplant the seedlings out into individual pots so that each of these seedlings have enough space to grow. They don't need to compete with each other for nutrients, water, and sunlight, and they can grow into bigger and healthier plants. All right, so I will demonstrate on how to transplant some of these seedlings into bigger pots. And okay, just a caveat, whatever I'll be demonstrating would be something that I find useful at home. There are no absolute correct ways of doing things, and there's no absolute only one way of doing things. These are just what I find comfortable and useful. So these are some tips that I've learned along the way. So to transplant some of these seedlings, what I like to use is this.
Wait, fork and spoon. Are you gonna eat the seedlings already?
No, not yet. So I like to use a metal fork and a metal spoon to transplant the seedlings out because these are actually common household items that you can find at home. You don't need to especially get a trowel or gardening fork to do this. And I find that a metal fork and spoon, they are small enough for you to easily navigate and maneuver around and to transplant some of these seedlings out. And next, what I always like to have with me is a small little plastic tray, or you can use a small bowl, and these will be useful for placing the seedlings on so that the seedlings don't go missing, they don't get blown away by the wind, or people don't accidentally step on it. And you can also fill this tray with some water so that if you have a lot of seedlings to transplant, it will take some time and the seedlings don't dry out in the meantime. What you also need would be a spray bottle filled with water. So this is actually very, very useful and very handy. I'll show you how how this thing comes in later. And of course, to transplant your seedlings out into a bigger pot, you need a bigger pot of soil. All right.
Right.
So let's get started. Okay. So with the metal fork, what you can do is you can gently just push the metal fork into the soil and try to dislodge the roots. All right. So in the process of transplanting seedlings, you'll definitely damage some roots in the process. But what we want to do here is to minimize the damage to the roots so that the seedlings don't get transplantation shock and they don't die. So you can just slowly just tease this thing out, all right? And you can just drop it into the tray. All right, so now you have something like that. So the seedlings are actually entangled with each other at the roots, and sometimes there's some soil in between the roots as well. So in order not to damage the fine root hairs, what you need to do is you can use a spray bottle of water. All right, so Ishan can help me out here. You can just spray at the roots. Okay, this will help to dislodge the soil from the roots. Right. Okay, and then you can actually easily separate out the seedlings like that. Right. So now you're ready for the transplanting process. All right. So with the bigger pot that you have prepared, you can use now the metal spoon, right? Okay. So you just dig a small little hole that's enough for the seedling, and then you place the seedling inside. All right. Can you hold the seedling?
All right.
And then you just use the metal spoon and just lightly cover back the soil.
So Wifong, how deep should we be planting these seedlings?
Right, okay. So you shouldn't be planting the seedlings too deep, all right? So you can actually just dig a hole that's shallow enough to actually just cover the roots and enough for the plant to actually stand stable, and that should be enough. And then after that, you will want to water the seedling that you just transplanted out. So with that, you can use the spray bottle, right? Okay, so with the spray bottle, I find that it's useful to use a spray bottle because if you use a water jet that's too strong, it will dislodge the seedling all over again. So what you will do is you can just gently spray, okay, just wet the soil at the surface. And for subsequent watering, you can just use a gentle stream of water so that it does not wash away the seedling and does not wash away too much of soil and uproot the seedling all over again. And once the roots have established and grown much more inside the pot, you can then do a normal regular watering. So so this transplanting process is good for leafy vegetables, so you can get a bigger plant, and hopefully in no time, you get something like this. So this is a Kangkong plant that has been transplanted into a bigger pot, and it has more space to grow, and so it's more lush now.
Right, that's very beautiful.
Yeah. So next, I'll be demonstrating on how to grow some of these fruited vegetables at home. I think many of you might have this question of like whether you can grow fruited vegetables at home, like long beans, cucumbers, along a corridor or a balcony. There's not enough space. How much space is needed, and things like that. And is it possible to grow some of these things at home? Well, answer is
yes, it is.
Yeah. So yes, it is possible to grow these at home. And today, with the help of Yishan, I'll be demonstrating on how you can make some of these simple DIY trellises at home for growing fruited vegetables. So so there are two different types of fruited vegetables, right, Yishan?
Yeah.
So one type would be that of tomato, brinjal, or lady's finger. So typically they have upright stems, but during the seedling phase, when they're growing up, they tend to have a bit of a weaker stem, so you need some support.
Oh dear, so they'll fall over if you don't do anything.
Yep. So if you're afraid of that, you can actually just use a simple bamboo stick, stick in the soil, and you just use a cable tie or metal twist tie and tie the stems loosely to the bamboo stick. But there is the other type of fruited vegetable which that are commonly grown. And do you know what those are?
Yeah, I've always wanted to grow long beans at home, but I heard they climb and I don't feel like I have enough space for them to crawl.
Yeah, so the other type, as what Ishan has rightly pointed out, are climbers of these fruited vegetables like long beans, cucumbers, and some of you might be growing bitter gourds or butterfly peas. So what we'll be showing you today will be how to make simple DIY trellises. So the first demo that I'll be showing would be making a TP structure. And for that, you need 3 of these like bamboo poles or bamboo sticks, or you can get some plastic poles, and they are available from your local hardware shop or nurseries. Right, can you help me with this? Okay, so this will be a TP structure, so that I'll be demonstrating. So Ishan, do you know what's a TP structure?
I heard TP is something like a tent shape of sorts.
Yes, okay, so a TP is like a small little tent, and this is what exactly the trellis will look like. Okay, to do that, what you need to do is have these 3 poles, just bunch them up together. Next, you can use a cable tie. Then you just tie it tightly at the end, right? So with the bunch of bamboo poles that you have, you can then now put them inside a pot and spread the poles apart equidistant so that you get a nice TP structure.
Oh yeah, it's definitely looking like a tent now.
Yeah, and actually with that, you're done with this simple DIY trellis. Very, very simple, right?
Yeah, that took less than 1 minute.
So, okay, this TP structure actually is sufficient for some of the climbers to actually grow on by twirling around these bamboo poles. But sometimes I also like to do this, which is to actually use twine to actually increase the surface area of that the fruited climbers can actually climb on. So, okay, I know it's a bit early for Christmas, but I don't know how many of you have decorated a Christmas tree before. So,
yes, I have. All right. I put bells on them as well.
All right, okay, excellent. Then you'll be the best person to help me with this.
Okay,
so
great.
What you need will be to get a cotton twine, or you can use any string that's strong enough. So you just tie a date knot at the tip of the TP structure.
Okay.
Right, like that.
Yep.
And what you want to do is, like decorating a Christmas tree, you just twirl the twine around the TP structure spirally downwards, like that, until you reach the bottom, and then you can just secure it at the bottom. So at every point where the twine or the string touches the bamboo pole, you can use either a cable tie or a metal twist tie. Just cut a small piece, and then you just secure this tightly to the bamboo pole.
Right, so what happens if we just leave the strings like that?
Right, okay, so if you leave the strings hanging loosely, it might just slip off as the weight of the climbers start to actually climb on the strings, and this whole structure will start to sag, and it doesn't look that nice, and it doesn't provide as much support anymore. So you can just tie it at the bottom, can secure it, and you should get something like this.
Yeah.
Right, so it just looks like a small little Christmas tree. And then you might be wondering, so where can I plant the climbers, or where can I plant the seedlings then? So if you look into the pot, you can see like it's a nice triangle. So you can actually plant a seedling at each of these corners, and this will allow the seedlings to actually grow. So you can plant between like 1 to 3 seedlings in one of these pots. And do make sure you get a bigger pot so that the seedlings can actually grow into the climbers and actually bear flowers and fruits. Okay, yes. Next, okay, yeah, so this This is something that we have grown in the nursery for about a month or two. So, Ishan, do you know what is this plant?
It has 3 leaflets. It looks like some sort of bean.
Yep, that's correct. So this is a long bean plant. So you can see even without the cross structures that we have tied with the twine, the long bean plant is still able to climb on, and actually is able to climb up. And once it reaches the top, what you can do is you can gently bend this down, and you can train the plant by twirling around the bamboo pole, and then you can use a metal twist tie to tie the stems loosely to the poles. Don't tie it too tightly because you might end up damaging the stems in the process, and it doesn't allow for the stems to actually grow bigger, right? So, yeah. So the next DIY structure that I want to demonstrate is that of using a plastic mesh. So you can buy some of these plastic mesh, something that looks like this, from your local hardware shops. So what I like to use would be a mesh size diameter of about 3 to 5 cm. So that's my personal preference because it allows some space for plants to go through in and out. But if you're not able to get a mesh that's of this diameter, you can get something that's a smaller diameter, mesh diameter. But I would recommend at least 1 cm diameter so that there's sufficient space for the climber stems to actually weave in and out.
Yes, but if you can't get something like this, that's okay. You can always cut bigger holes into a smaller mesh to enhance the space for the climbers to grow.
Yeah. Okay, so in order to do this DIY structure, so what you need is, first of all, you need a bigger pot where you're going to transplant the seedling into, and then you want to measure the inner diameter of the pot. So this reads at about 27
centimeters.
27 centimeters. So what you can do is you can round up to the nearest 10. So 27, you round up, it's about 30 cm. And with the 30 cm or the inner diameter of the pot that's rounded up, you multiply it by 3. All right. So after you multiply it by 3, so it will be 30 times 3, it will be
90.
90. Yeah, thank you. So 90 cm would be the length of the plastic mesh that you'll need to actually fit inside the inner diameter of this pot. So here I have with me a pre-cut 90 cm mesh. So what you need to do is to roll this into like a bolster shape, all right? And then what you need to do is you get some cable ties. And what you need to do then is to secure the cable ties to the plastic mesh so that the plastic mesh actually stay in place with each other.
Yeah, and to make it even more secure, you can actually cut a length which is more than 90 centimeters so that it overlaps at the end and you can secure both sides of it.
Okay, so do the securing for the entire length, and then you should get a nice structure like this, right? So you can then just put it in a pot and just make sure that it fits nicely, all right? But before we actually put this inside the pot, do you think we're missing something?
Well, we have the pot, we have the soil, we have the trellis, but we don't have a plant.
Yeah, okay. So actually that's a good point that that Ishan brought up. So because if you look at this structure over here, it looks like a small little plastic cage or column. So if you were to secure this right straight into the pot, you might find it a bit difficult to actually plant the seedling or the plant if this column actually fits nicely for the inner diameter of the pot. So what you might want to do is you can then just plant the seedling, okay, close either in the middle or close to the side, all right, but not at the side, not along the borders or circumference of the pot, so that it does not get into the way of the column of the plastic mesh that you'll be installing. So you can plant it inside here or here, and then what you then do is you can then install this structure over the seedlings, and you can then train the seedlings in and out of the mesh.
So this one we've done about a month ago, and we have grown some cucumber seedlings.
Yeah, so it should look something like that. Yeah, so you can see the cucumber seedlings are actually climbing along the plastic mesh itself.
And I see there's this springy thing that they're using to attach themselves to the trellis. What's this?
Yeah, so if you look right over here, okay, so at the tip of the cucumber plant, you see this little structure or little string that is coming out from the plant. And so these are tendrils. Tendrils are actually modified structures of a plant that helps it to cling onto another structure for it to climb. So this usually tendrils are common in climbers or plants with a climbing habit. So with a plastic mesh like this, it allows climbers like the cucumber plant to actually hook on with their tendrils and climb up. And you can see that even with a size of a pot like this, we're able to grow a cucumber plant, and it's actually flowering right now.
Yes, I can't wait for it to bear fruit.
Right. So I hope the DIY demos have been useful and it's simple enough for everyone to follow. And I hope that you will be able to try some of these at home because these are actually things that you can actually get easily from hardware shops or from local nurseries and things like that. But if you miss any of the steps, don't worry. You can actually go on to our YouTube channel at NParks SG and you can recap some of these steps that I've been through. Okay, now, so after my demo, now I think many of us are familiar with these vegetables that we commonly eat every day, like cai xing, kailan, xiao bai cai, kangkong, and things like that. But do you know that there are also some of these vegetables or plants that are native to Singapore? They're also edible, and they're also found in our local markets and supermarkets and things like that. So right now, Yishen will be sharing with us some of these native plants that we can find in our local markets.
Yes, thanks, Yufeng, for sharing about trellises. So today, I'll share with you guys 5 different types of native edible plants that you can find in our local markets.
Okay, wait, Yishen, before you go into explaining all this, what is native? Is native something, it sounds wild to me.
Yeah, that's a good question. So actually, a plant that is native to Singapore is one that has been found growing originally in the vegetation of Singapore, which means the species itself has probably been around for longer than you or I.
Wow, okay. So things like, do we find those that we find in Bukit Timah Nature Reserve and things like that?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah, lots of the plants in our nature reserves and nature parks are native species.
Right, okay. I can't wait to get started
Yes.
on knowing some of these things because I see food. Okay, okay, I think this thing that I see here, it looks like some potato chips.
Yes. In fact, it is the fried chips of the belinjal plant. So this plant grows as a rainforest tree, and you can find it in our nature reserves and even in our parks and streetscapes.
Okay, can I try one of these?
Yeah, go for it.
All right.
Let me know how it tastes.
There's a texture of a potato chip like. There's a very unique taste to it.
Yeah. Do you
a
find
slight-
it tastes?
Yeah, there's a slight bitter aftertaste, but it's quite nice.
It's nice. Yeah. I actually enjoy eating it with like sambal belacan or even, I think in gado-gado, sometimes they put this on top. It's pretty nice.
So this is the pre-fried version of the belinjal chip.
Yeah, so this is what we can commonly find sold in our markets. It's the pre-fried version. It's basically made from the seeds of the plant, which are roasted and then pounded flat into this and then sun-dried.
Right. Wow, that's interesting. And these are the leaves?
Yeah, these are the leaves of the plant. So the plant's not just useful for its fruits and seeds, but also its leaves. So in markets, I went to Geylang Serai and I saw them selling young leaves of this plant. Yeah. So apparently I asked the stallholders, how do you cook this? And they say, oh, just cook it and like eat it. You can cook it with the fruit skins as well. It's pretty nice.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what do we have here? This looks like some medicinal plant or some dried kind of thing that we find in the Chinese medicinal shop. Is it?
This one is actually more of an ingredient in curries and it tastes pretty sour.
So what is this?
So this is the Assam galuga plant.
Oh.
It's also a rainforest tree that you can find in our nature reserves.
Assam galuga.
Yeah.
Oh, so so what's this? This is the dried flowers or leaves or
So that is the dried fruit of the plant. It is sliced thinly. It's actually like big and yellow. It's sliced thinly and sun-dried.
oh, okay. It does have it does look like one of those fruits that that like an apple or yeah, something like that.
Yeah, actually, right. It's
like an
more
apple chip.
closely related to mangosteens than apples.
Mangosteen.
Mangosteens, yeah.
Wow, okay. Oh, I love mangosteens. Can I try this?
Yes,
Please?
go for it.
All right.
How's
Wow. Okay, it's quite sour.
How's it?
Nothing like the mangosteen that I'm used to.
Oh, right.
So how do you cook this or how do you eat this again?
Yeah, so this one, you can cook it in Assam curries. So to get the sour taste, like an Assam laksa, Assam pedas, you can use this.
Right. Okay. Wait. Do you mention Assam? So is it like the Assam paste that we use commonly in cooking?
Ah, right, very good. I think what you're thinking of is the tamarind tree. That's
Yes,
also
yep.
called Assam, but they can both be used as substitutes. But I think for some people, they have like preferences for either for different dishes.
So there are different things, right?
Different things, yeah.
Right. Okay. And next, what do we have here? This looks familiar. This looks like something that I get to eat in desserts. So I know what this is. This is atapchi, right?
Yeah, that's right. So this is one of the jewels that you can find in ice kacang.
Wow, okay. Yeah, every time I ask kacang, I'll just go straight for this first.
I
Just dig to the
know, I
bottom
always
first.
ask for extra for this.
Okay, so where does this come from and what plant is it from?
It's quite interesting. I didn't expect this, but what you see there actually comes from this fruit. So this is a mangrove palm. It grows in places like, it's pretty common. You can find it in Pasir Ris Park or Balaya Creek, Pulau Ubin even.
All right.
Yeah.
So this actually comes from one of these.
Yeah.
Okay, so each of these is a fruit. Wow, actually it's a very tough fruit.
Yeah, it's actually pretty light. But it's like a mini coconut. It has a fibrous husk so that the seeds can float in water.
Oh, so I think it must be quite hard to extract one of the seeds out from each of these fruit because it looks quite tough. No wonder every time I ask kacang, they only give one only.
Yeah.
And what's this down here? This looks like some kueh but it's it doesn't have kueh.
So this is like, it's close. It is a common ingredient of all our kuehs. It's actually Gula Melaka.
Oh, Gula Melaka. Okay, I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and you're telling me that it comes from the same plant?
Yes, this plant is a very, very useful dessert plant actually.
Wow, okay. It's going to be my favorite palm. So how do you get Gula Melaka?
So this one, it's boiled from the sugary sap, which is found from the flowers. So what people do is they tie the flower stalks together and then they slice it thinly. And so you get this sugary liquid that comes out.
Wow,
and then you boil it slowly until it becomes that.
Wow, so it's like bleeding the plant.
Yeah.
Sweet sugar syrup.
Sugary sweetness there.
Right. So I see that you have a few other plants.
Yes. So I have 2 more plants, and these plants you can actually grow at home because they are herbs and shrubs.
So what is this?
So this is the Downcardo Leaves. It's a relative of the pepper plant, also of your beetle leaves.
Right. So how do you eat this?
Yeah, this is pretty simple. What you can do is put it in ulams, which is a raw kind of salad. So slice it thinly. And also, interestingly, usually your otak is grilled, right? But there's a version which you can steam, and they use this as a flavoring for it as well.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's nice. Right. I think we have one last plant that you want to show.
Yes.
Is it this?
So this one you can also grow at home if you have a bit more space because it grows as a shrub. This plant is the Chikumanis plant.
Oh, Chikumanis. So which part of the plant do you eat for this?
So you actually strip the leaves from the stem and you can cook it in soups like pan mian, or you can also stir fry it with eggs.
And you said Chikumanis, so there's this word manis inside. Manis means sweet, right?
Yeah.
In Bahasa Melayu.
Yeah.
So does it taste?
I find it a little bit sweet. It's quite nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. I think I should try it in my pan mian next time.
Yeah, you can check it out.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, so thank you, Ishan, for sharing with us some of these native plants that are also edible. So we'll come to our next segment of our Facebook live session, where we'll be answering some of the questions that people have been asking about their gardening, some of the issues that are coming in gardening, and what is this plant, what's happening to my plant, and things like that.
Right.
But before we get to the live questions, we would want to answer some of these questions that were commonly asked on our social media channel.
Okay, so the first question is, my cucumber leaves are growing, but the leaves are limp. What could be the reason? Well, there are several reasons why this could be the problem with your plants. First is due to water, and then due to excessive sunlight, and lastly could be due to pests and diseases on your plant. So firstly, if your plant is not getting enough water, it may start to wilt. And a very simple remedy to this is to basically touch your soil and make sure that it's moist enough. And if it's not, just water it thoroughly. And this can be quite a problem if you started your plant in smaller containers or even egg trays, because these dry out a lot quicker.
Right, and I think the other possibility is that it could be due to pests and diseases. So in order to check on that, what you can do is you can turn the leaves of the plant upside, okay, and check on the underside of the leaves. And these are the places where usually pests like whiteflies like to hide. So you can just look out for small little white flying insects or some other insects that could be damaging the plants. So if you encounter some of these pests on the plants, what you can do is use a clean pair of secateurs, right? And then look for the parts that are heavily infested, like the leaves or one of the shoots. Then just trim it away, bag it up, and dispose of it properly. Because if you don't dispose of the heavily infested parts properly, you know what you're going to get?
Ooh, infestation.
Yes, you're going to get infestation on
the worst
all your other
nightmare.
plants, and it's going to just spread to all your other plants in your garden. So you want to dispose of that properly. And for the secateurs or the tool that you use to cut the part to dispose away, you might want to clean it with mild soap solution or use alcohol swab just to wipe it clean, so that you make sure that you also don't use this secateurs that's contaminated and spread to other plants.
Yeah.
And then after the physical removal of most of the pests, then what you can do is you can use some pesticides to apply it on the plant. But
since we're going to eat these plants, shouldn't we not be putting pesticides on them?
yeah, so that's a very good question, and that's a very valid concern that everyone has. So it's okay to use some of these organic based pesticides such as neem oil, or if you go to a local nursery or flower shops, sometimes they sell this other pesticide that is made from chrysanthemum extract called pytrine. So these are plant-based pesticides, or you can use white summer oil. So these are organic in nature, and you can apply them to the plants, and you'll be safe for eating later on as well. So these are some of the pesticides that we would recommend you to use if you're growing edible plants, and they're also more environmentally friendly as well.
Yeah, and one more tip to minimize the risk of disease, you might want to space out your plants more so that there's enough ventilation to ensure these plants can breathe.
Yep. All right, so we come to our next question.
So next question is, my chilies and tomatoes flower but don't bear fruit. Why is this so?
So, okay, so like for chilies and tomatoes, they are fruited vegetables. So fruited vegetables, as compared to leafy vegetables, they're a bit more challenging. So leafy vegetables, quite simple, right? You just germinate the seeds. Once the seeds germinate, it puts out some leaves. You can harvest the leaves and you can eat it. But for fruited vegetables, you need to get them to grow, and you need to get them to flower. And after flowering, you need them to bear fruits. But if the plant is not bearing fruits but is flowering, very high chance is that the flowers are not pollinated. And usually these plants are pollinated by
insects, is it?
Yep, they're pollinated by insects. And I think sometimes it's more challenging for people who live in very high-rise apartments, where you can't control, you can't summon some of these insects or bees or butterflies out to your 25-story high apartment. So what you can do is you can artificially pollinate some of these plants. So this is to help them to bear fruits. So to do that, you can get some simple household tools that you can have you have lying around your house. So you can use like this. This is a cotton bud. So cotton buds are usually used for like cosmetics and things like that. So yeah, or you can use a paintbrush with very fine and soft bristles. All right. Okay. So what you need to do is, okay, if you look over here, okay, there are some flowers. So what you need to do is you can just use the cotton bud or paintbrush, just put it into the flower, gently just turn it a few rounds, and then you move to the next flower, put the paintbrush into the flower again, and turn it a few rounds, and you do so for all the flowers that you have on the plant or across the different plants that you may have grown. So this will maximize the chances of pollination for the different flowers and fruited vegetables that you're growing. Right. And our next question is, why does my 小白菜 grow very slowly? Even after 3 weeks, the first set of true leaves are very small. They get morning sun for about 4 to 5 hours.
There are a few reasons why your 小白菜 could be growing a bit slowly. Actually, after 3 weeks, you should get maybe 4 or 5 sets of true leaves. But one of the reasons is you could have a pot that is too small, because the amount of leaf growth is actually related to the amount of roots that the plant can put out. So if it's too constricted, you can't grow very well.
Yep. And also sometimes the reason why some of the plants for like the 小白菜 is not growing as fast or as big is because there's a lack of sunlight or there's not enough light. So typically for 小白菜 and many of these leafy vegetables, they enjoy lots of sun. So more than 5 hours, 6 hours, these are perfect for leafy vegetables. But I know many of you might be staying in high-rise apartments or at corridors where you're growing some of these leafy vegetables, or balconies, which may not receive as much sunlight. But don't worry, don't fret, you're not missing out on these things. So what some gardeners have done is that they have also installed some of these grow lights or horticulture lights at home. So these lights, these artificial lights actually provide enough light energy for the plants to photosynthesize and grow. So you can get some of these grow lights from online shops or from some specialty shops locally as well. Right.
Okay, so now let's take some of live questions from our audience. So thanks for all your questions.
Okay, so we have, okay, so let's take this question by, okay, I'm so sorry, I may not be very good with names, by Chiru Imran Bakri. Okay, says, my Thai basil and okra plants are still very small after a few weeks. Do they need a lot of sunlight to grow? So yes, Thai basil plants and okra plants or lady's fingers, they enjoy lots of sunlight, and they grow best with lots of sunlight. So typically more than 5 hours, 6 hours of sunlight will be very, very good for these plants. So if, like what I've shared before, if the growing place that or your garden is lacking some sunlight, what you can do is you can get some of these grow lights to grow some of them. But do take note, for the okra or lady's finger plants, they will grow to about more than a meter or 1.5 meters tall. So later on, you may need to actually transplant them out into a bigger pot, and the grow lights will be a limitation. So you might want to find a place. You can join one of the community gardens or join one of the allotment garden plots and garden and plant some of these outside. For the Thai basil plants, I think it's still quite okay.
Yeah. So in my apartment, I don't have too much light, but I'm still able to actually grow Thai basil under lights. So it's still possible. But I think for okra, it's a bigger plant, so it might require a bit more light, and hence it's best if you can put it under sunlight. Okay, so the next question is by Lily Limp, and she asks, my balcony gets very windy during year end. How can I help protect the plants over those few months? Okay, yeah, I know it's starting to get towards the year end and everything's getting windy and rainy, but not to worry. So if your balcony gets very windy, what you can do is, especially if you have taller plants, you can try to stick your plants like we've shown earlier. I think we mentioned about the tomatoes and sticking them. Yeah, so if you stick them and then you twist tie, cable tie your plants to the sticks and make sure the sticks are firmly planted into the ground and also into the pot, sorry. And also if you press the sticks firmly in, compact the soil near the sticks, that should make it stronger.
Yep. All right. The next question by Miss Esther Chua. Does harvesting the edibles such as kangkong mean pulling out the plants and the roots altogether? And how to regrow again upon harvest, starting from seeds again? All right, so this is a very, very good question. So there are some tips for some of these things, and it's like a cheat code kind of thing. So like so for some of the leafy vegetables that you might be growing, like kangkong and kailan. So what you can do is for kangkong, so Isha, can you help me pass the plant over? All right, so for kangkong, you will see that actually it will grow some of these long stems and creeping stems are long. So what you can do is, if you want to harvest a kangkong, you can actually just cut them along the stem, and then you can just use it for vegetables and for stir frying with sambal belacan and things like that. And the kangkong vegetable will start to grow again and will sprout from the nodes that are earlier on the older stems itself. Or if you have accidentally cut too long a piece, what you can do is for some of these parts that are at the bottom, usually for kangkongs, what you want to eat will be the younger leaves. So these are more tender, they're not so fibrous and nicer to eat. So for the older leaves, you might not want to eat them because they tend to be more fibrous. So for those that you have cut, what you can do is you can actually root them back in water, and they do grow from cuttings as well. So that's like a cheat code. And also for some of the vegetables like kailan, okay, what you can do is, so kailan or kale, they actually grow a stem. So what you can do for harvesting the plant again for consumption without uprooting the whole plant is that you can actually cut away the leaves and from the bottom and allow the top few leaves to actually continue to grow bigger, and then you just keep harvesting. But of course, your kailan plant will start to get taller and taller and taller. But you can also start to, what you can do later on is you can also try to root the stems in water and get another plant.
Right. Okay. So the next question from Cloud Go is my cucumber plant is about 1 month old now, but the leaves are bigger than my palm, but they haven't flowered yet. So what can I do? Okay. So if your cucumber plant hasn't flowered yet, what you can do is to just be a bit more patient, because 1 month is still pretty young for the plant. It may start producing its first flowers, but they may not be ready to bear fruits yet. But maybe even after waiting for a while and you still find there's no fruits and no flowers, in fact, first, what you can do is to try to apply a fertilizer which is richer in phosphorus and potassium. So usually, right, when you go to a nursery and you buy fertilizers, you get 3 numbers, N, P, and K. So it's very good that a lot of these products have state that this is for flowering and this is for fruiting. And these are usually higher in potassium and phosphorus. So if you choose these fertilizers instead to promote flowering instead of leafy growth, you might find that your cucumber plants will start flowering more readily and fruiting as well. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Another question that we have here. Wait. Okay. Where was this? Sorry. Okay. From Mr. Joe Tan. Okay. Soil is a very important planting media. So what advice can you give for preparation of soil prior to using it for planting? All right. So indeed, yes, soil is very important for the growth of a plant. I think first and foremost, you need to establish and know your plant before you know what to prepare for the soil. So different plants have different growing requirements, and you can then customize the soil according to the plant's needs. So for edibles, most of these edible plants, they require plants that can actually hold water, hold moisture, they like soil that is rich in organic material. So this provides nutrients for the plants. And at the same time, they also need soil that is well draining, so that you don't get a waterlogged soil, and then the plants start to suffocate at the root ball, at the root zone area. So, so for edibles, what I like to use are actually soil that's rich in organic material. So typically, they look something like this, right? So these are, you can feel the texture of the soil. It's actually fine, and it doesn't stick even after it's wet or moist. And you can see that with the black color of the soil, it's actually very rich in actually organic material, which provides nutrients for the soil, for the plants to grow well. So do go for this kind of planting media, and you find that the planting media is too waterlogged. The soil tends to be very clayey and things like that. You might want to change the soil that you are using. And to make the soil more well draining, what you can do is you can add some perlite or some vermiculite. So this will actually help to break the soil structure and allow water to drain through. But of course, if you're growing some other plants, such as some of these cacti and succulent plants, which require less water, you can use growing media that is more loose and well draining and doesn't hold too much water.
Okay. So the next question from Jaslyn Koch is, my okra plant is getting taller and taller. How long will they take to stop fruiting so that I can remove the stem and grow new seeds? Okay, that's great that your okra is already growing and producing fruits. So I guess you're asking how tall will it grow to? Maybe I think okra can grow pretty tall depending on the variety that you grow. It can even grow up to human height or slightly more. But if you'd like to collect seeds, what you can do is to not harvest all of the fruits. Maybe you can just leave one or two to dry. So when they dry and they turn brown and papery, you can harvest the seeds. So you won't be limiting the yield of your plant too much. You can still harvest your fruits, but just leave one or two older pods, and then you can start the seeds off first. Yeah, so that by the time you're ready to start a new batch of seedlings, you have them already with you.
All right. Okay. Can take two more questions. Okay. I will translate this question. Okay, it's in Mandarin. Okay, it's from one of our Facebook viewers from Mr. Tan or Mr. Chen. It says 用什么方法可以除去害虫 or in English it translates to what can you use to get rid of pests, can get rid of pests and on the plants. So to get rid of pests on plants, there are various methods. So like what I've explained before, one of the first few steps that you will want to use to get rid of plants is the actual physical removal of the pest as much as possible first. So this will minimize the amount of pesticides that you need to use later on. So like what I've explained before, use a clean pair of secateurs to remove the part that is most heavily infested with the pest, dispose it properly, and prevent the spread of the pest to the other plants in your garden. And then you can use organic pesticides such as neem oil and pyrethrin that are chrysanthemum based for edible plants. Yeah.
Okay, so the next question is from Patricia, and it relates to growing plants in egg cartons. So Patricia is asking, is the egg carton tray biodegradable, the one made of cardboard? And if yes, can we just cut each hole after the seedlings have sprouted and plant directly into the soil? What do you think, Rifeng?
Okay, well, there are a few ways you can go about doing this. So if you have used a cardboard egg tray, cardboard will actually slowly over time degrade and actually they'll break down and the roots will start to come out. That's possible. But what you can also do is you can actually remove the cardboard as well. And this will allow the roots to actually spread faster and grow and reach the rest of the soil easier. So, well, there's no absolute right or wrong. It's just a matter of preference, in my opinion. So actually, the cardboard does break down. So if you don't feel like removing a cardboard, you can just plunge straight in,
Right.
or if not, you can just remove the cardboard. Both works actually. All right. So thank you so much for all the questions. it was a really good session. I see so many comments and so many questions coming in. I'm so sorry that we're not able to answer all of your questions, but it was really good session, I felt. And if you have any more of these questions and we didn't manage to answer some of them, what you can do is you can go to our NParks gardening resource webpage, or you can go to our YouTube channel at NParks SG, where we have some demo videos where maybe some of your questions will be answered inside those videos as well.
Yeah, but don't worry, if we didn't manage to get back to you earlier on, we'll get back to you sometime later shortly. So stay tuned.
Right. So thank you all for joining us for our second session of the Facebook Live for Gardening with Edibles. So the Gardening with Edibles program is brought to you by NParks and is supported by our founding partners, DBS Bank and the Tote Board through the Garden City Fund.
Yes, I think it's been a very fruitful session today. Thank you all for joining us. And if you want to watch this session again, it will be put up online on Facebook and our YouTube channel shortly. So you can browse through this video and the previous ones as well.
All right, and we'll be having another Facebook Live session next month. So do join us in October for our next session. All right, see you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.